This is how I'm going to structure the video. First, I'm going to talk about the psychology behind wanting polygamy. Second, I'll go over the practicality of polygamous relationships. Next, we'll discuss the future of polygamy. And finally, I'll give you my thoughts on how polygamy would affect society. Now, please keep in mind that when we talk about polygamy in this context, I'm talking about serious, consensual relationships with multiple partners. Everyone involved is aware of this arrangement. Not cheating, not casual dating, not a fantasy, a fetish, or anything like that. I'm talking about serious relationships. And when taking into account the biology of women and how men are inherently territorial, it will be extremely unlikely to have multiple men settle for one woman. With that said, the most common arrangement of polygamy is one man with multiple women. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. Alright, let's take the man's perspective first. If a man tells me he's interested in polygamy, he wants to have multiple wives, the first thing I would look at is self-esteem. The truth is, you probably have low self-esteem or a lack of feeling truly desirable. As a man, if you went through the early stages of your life with very little attention from women, and you didn't have a lot of success when it comes to dating, so now that you're doing a little bit better, you dream of having multiple women in the same relationship because what would be better proof of your desirability? What could be more validating than the fact that two women are willing to share you? When you walk down the street with two beautiful women in your arms, obviously people are going to think you're the man, right? I understand where you're coming from, but you gotta ask yourself, is that the right motivation to have? To try to get into a relationship with multiple women? Is being with multiple women the only source of your self-esteem? What about your jobs, your career, your relationships with friends and family? Do you have a purpose in your life? As a man, the foundation of your self-esteem should be based on your accomplishments first, then comes your relationships. I understand that your relationships with women is important, but if that's the only thing going on in your life, my man, you really need to take a cold shower and reflect a bit more. I would argue that a much healthier way of going about this is grieving all the opportunities that you didn't get to have in your younger years, uncovering the pain of why you feel a lack of desirability and make peace with it, rather than this temporary solution of being with multiple women. Now, the second thing I would consider is about practicality. How are you going to make it work? In terms of responsibility, how are you doing in all other areas of your life? Have you maxed out on everything that you're supposed to do? Do you meet all the needs of your current partner, physically, financially, emotionally? Is she happy? Are you happy? For most men, the responsibility of being with just one woman is more than enough. Do you have a healthy and functioning relationship? Do you have children? Do you plan to have children? That's a lot of responsibility right there. What about your health? Are you exercising? Are you taking care of your body? What about your career? Are you actively taking more responsibilities to increase your salary? Do you have a business? Do you provide employment for other people? Are you a leader in your community? If you answer no to any of them, then you're not in the right place to add another woman into the relationship. While the fantasy of having lots of sex, threesomes, ultimate validation from society, I can understand why that's appealing, but the reality of it is responsibilities. Lots of responsibilities. Now here's possibly where I'm going to surprise some people. If you want polygamy not because of a self-esteem issue, you're killing it in all other areas of your life, and you still have the energy to spare, I'm actually not against polygamy. If you've proven to yourself that you're more than capable of having multiple women, I say go for it. I don't believe in socially enforced monogamy. Just because some loser down the street can't get multiple women doesn't mean you have to be monogamous. If you work hard and make yourself into an amazing person, then you deserve all the rewards. However, before you make up your mind about polygamy, there is one other factor that you need to consider. So let's look at this from a woman's perspective. In my opinion, and this might sound controversial, but I don't think you'll be able to find a genuinely high-quality woman who's interested in polygamy, especially in the Western society. For example, let's take somebody who is genuinely, objectively speaking, 10 out of 10. Let's take Miss Universe 2022, Bonnie Gabriel. Now you, as a high-quality man, you come up to her and you say, hey, you're amazing, I want to date you, I want to be with you, but I want to share you with another woman. Why on earth would she settle for half of you? Because she's thinking, I'm at the very top of the dating market. I get hit on every single day by famous people, celebrities, professional athletes, artists, millionaires, top-tier men who are willing to give me their full attention. Why would I settle for half of you? Why would I share you with another woman? When you look at it from this angle, I hope you realize that only women with low self-esteem who don't think they deserve to have a man all to themselves are going to be open to the idea of polygamy. In addition to this, we must also look at the practicality from a woman's perspective. If you are an amazing guy like I described earlier, you want a polygamous relationship not because of a self-esteem issue, you're killing it in all other areas of your life, and you still have the energy to spare. When you decide to add another woman into your relationship, there's a good chance that she is going to be young and pretty. So how is your current partner going to deal with the fact that you are now spending more time with a younger and prettier woman? Is she going to be happy, or is she going to be jealous and eventually want to sabotage the relationship? This is a very very real phenomenon in polygamous relationships. The senior woman worries that she will eventually be replaced by a younger woman, and the younger woman in turn worries about the power exerted in the relationship by the senior woman. So at the end of the day, there's always this constant struggle between these women to compete for power, resources, time, and affection from the man. And this might get even worse when there are children involved. The point I'm trying to make here is that I don't think you'll be able to find a high-quality woman who's going to be interested in polygamy. A genuinely high-quality woman who is serious about relationship is not going to want to share her man with anybody. Now you might say, but Ben, to get a high-quality woman requires a lot of work. I'd rather have 2 to 3 low-quality women than 1 high-quality woman. If that's your perspective, I say you're misinformed. It doesn't work that way. 2 low-quality women does not equal a high-quality woman. In fact, that's gonna make things even worse. You would double or even triple the amount of problems in your relationship. It doesn't matter how many low-quality women you add onto your relationship, you're not gonna get the same benefit as you would from being with a high-quality woman. When it comes to relationships, it's not about quantity. It's about quality. And at this point in time, I don't think you're going to be able to find a genuinely high quality woman in the Western countries who is going to be happy in a polygamous relationship. She has too many options. Now, is it going to change in the future? I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. Here's why I say it's possible. Right now, the concept of polygamy might seem outlandish. A man having multiple wives seems like a male fantasy, the ultimate expression of the patriarchy. And in a society where we are bombarded with constant messages of female empowerment, women are never going to support this concept. However, if there was ever a shift in societal attitudes and a movement to normalize polygamy, I believe that this movement will not be initiated by men, it will be initiated by women. In fact, this movement to normalize polygamy is going to become a battle cry of feminism. Now you might say, Ben, what the hell are you talking about? Why would women under the banner of feminism would ever push to normalize a male fantasy? Okay, I want you to take a step back and consider how much feminism has changed in the past 60 years. Today, we have pop stars dancing on stage, dressed in barely anything, shaking their ass, mimicking sex moves, and these women are considered feminist icons, doing it for female empowerment. We have women dressed in miniskirts, tight dresses, and low-cut tops for a night out. Any suggestions that these women should dress more modestly would be considered sexist. We have Instagrams and OnlyFans where teenagers are taking off their clothes for strangers on the internet, saying that they've never felt more empowered. Women today have reduced themselves to the level of sex objects just to appease the male gaze. This is what feminism has become, a male fantasy. Initially, feminism was about equality or equal opportunities. If men can do XYZ, women should be able to do XYZ as well. The original feminists wanted women to be able to enter the workplace and live their lives completely separate from men, in a way that was meaningful and not defined by their relationships with men. But what the original feminists did not account for was female nature. As humans, we are hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. We want the path of least resistance. So even though feminism has allowed women to achieve equality in the workplace, not all women wanted to climb the corporate ladder. Some women didn't want to put in that amount of work because it could take years of studying and hard work to have a successful career. They wanted to take the easier option, like marrying some rich old man and living off of his wealth. But there was very strong stigma attached to being a gold digger, and they didn't like that. So what did they do? Under the banner of feminism, they pushed to normalize it. And now, instead of calling it gold digger, which has a lot of negative connotations, let's call it sugar baby. And as a result, we saw a huge surge in sugar baby websites. Every girl in college wanted to be a sugar baby. Or instead of working hard to have a successful career, they took off their clothes and showed their bodies to strangers on the internet. But again, there was very strong stigma attached to that. So what did they do? They pushed to normalize it. And as a result, the adult entertainment industry just exploded with a huge increase in sex workers and prostitution. This is the current state of feminism. The merits of your choice is not as important as the fact that as a woman, you have a choice. So when all choices for women are equally valid and destigmatized under the banner of feminism, it is not a surprise what feminism has become. I go as far as saying that it was inevitable. When you destigmatize the easier options, of course a lot of women are going to take those options. In the future, it's very possible that this same logic and reasoning are going to be applied in a movement to normalize polygamy. Here's my reasoning. Women are hypergamous. They want to be with the highest value man they can possibly get. They want a man with good genes so that their children will be healthy. They also want a man who is rich and successful so that he can provide for the family. Now, in the Western countries, the gap between the people at the top and the people at the bottom gets bigger and bigger every single year. In terms of resources, the rich are getting richer and the poor cannot escape poverty. This gap is also getting bigger in terms of biology. Good-looking men tend to marry good-looking women and they have children together, which means that all the good-looking genes get concentrated in those families. On the other hand, ugly people are marrying other ugly people, creating ugly children, and the gap is just getting bigger and bigger every generation. In terms of dating, social media and dating apps have completely changed the dating landscape. Because of the amount of options available to women, that gives them a false sense of self-worth and ultimately leading to their standards being extremely high. And you can see evidence of this because the rate of single people between the age of 18 and 35 is at the highest it's ever been. In addition to that, women are able to work and support themselves, so they don't really need a man like they did 60 years ago. If we keep going at this rate, at some point, women's standards and expectations are going to be so high that they're not willing to settle unless the guy is of extremely high value. So if we were to take a step back and look at the big picture, there's a very small percentage of men at the very top of society who have the good looks, status, resources, everything, and pretty much all women want to be with those guys. But there are not enough of those men to go around. That's why right now, monogamy is socially enforced, because if those men were to take all of the women, society would crumble. Here's the thing though, for most high-quality women, monogamy will always be the preferred relationship arrangement, because most women don't want to share their man with anybody, like we discussed earlier. However, there's also a sizable minority of women who are not willing to settle for monogamy, because they look at the quality of the man that they have to settle for and they're thinking, he's not that attractive, he's not that rich, and he doesn't have a lot of status. Getting his exclusive attention, it's not really appealing to me. But this really handsome celebrity, he's extremely wealthy, he has so much fame and influence. If I'm being honest, I'd rather share him than to settle for this guy. Sure, it's not ideal that I have to share him, but at least my children are going to have his genetics and I have access to all of his wealth. My life will be so much more exciting. Now here's something you need to realize. This is already happening. It's called having an affair. We hear stories like this all the time. Women having affairs with married men. But they risk a lot of social stigma. Enters the mindset of a modern feminist. I'm a woman and this is my choice. If I want to date married men, I should be able to date married men. Why should I feel ashamed? This is how I choose to empower myself. Do you see how this could be the beginning of a movement to normalize polygamy? These women who have to sneak around having affairs with married men, at some point, they're going to resent the fact that there's a stigma attached to it. So what do? They're going to want to normalize it. And knowing how the culture has been catering to this one loud group of minority, they will probably succeed. History will likely repeat itself. So this raises an important question. If we were to move away from monogamy into polygamy, what would that look like for you as an individual? And what would happen to society? Okay, first, how well you do as an individual is going to depend entirely upon where you sit in the social hierarchy. If you're a top-tier guy, you're rich and successful, you can financially support multiple women, and you've always wanted more than one woman, well, now is your time. There's no social stigma, and you don't have to worry about sneaking around having affairs. However, if you're not a top-tier guy, you're somewhere in the bottom of the social hierarchy, it's going to suck. As bad as the dating market might be right now, brace yourself because it's going to get even worse. When polygamy becomes the norm, all of the women you're trying to date, they'll be dating celebrities, professional athletes, and millionaires. They're not going to look your way. As a matter of fact, they won't even see you. You will be invisible to them. Now, what about women? What will happen to women? In a polygamous society, you will be in demand as long as you're young and pretty. Because when men are looking to add another woman into their relationship, they're not going to pick an old and ugly woman. You will have to compete for the top-tier men that you want. If you want to be with that guy, just know that thousands of other women also want to be with him. So if you think the competition is bad right now, it's going to get much, much worse. In addition to that, even when you are in a relationship with a top-tier man, there's still a high probability that when you get older, they will replace you with a younger woman. But hey, you can always settle for a guy down the street working at Starbucks. I don't think you're going to be happy, but that's an option. Now, it would be interesting to speculate what would happen to society if polygamy becomes the norm. I believe that if we normalize polygamy, it will be the end of social cohesion. It's just a matter of time before we see an intense backlash from men. If a small percentage of men, the top-tier men, were to take all the women to themselves, what incentive would there be for the majority of men who have no women but still expected to contribute to society? Historically speaking, we don't tend to find that many societies where the man in charge had 20 wives and still expect all the other men to contribute. It has always been understood that in order for a man to contribute to society, he needs to be invested in that society. And the best way to do that is by having children. That would incentivize him to contribute to society because he wants to see a good future for his children. But if the majority of men cannot get women and reproduce, yet they're still expected to contribute to society, they're not going to be happy. This is my prediction. There will be an increase in crimes, protests, violence, or even acts of terrorism from men who are unable to get women. Because of this, there will also be an increase in adult entertainment industries like prostitution and pornography. And since the male customer base is going to be so big, lots of women are going to be attracted to those professions. They're going to want to sell their bodies for money because that's the easy option. And like we discussed earlier, when you destigmatize the easy options, people are going to take those options. So yeah, that's how I see the future of polygamy. It's pretty dark. But hey, all of this is just a prediction. We don't know what's going to happen. I can be completely wrong. Here's the thing, like I said earlier, if there was ever a movement to normalize polygamy, it probably won't happen anytime soon. Probably not in my lifetime. But it will be interesting to think about the kind of society that your grandchildren will be born into. If you like this video, I got another one I want you to watch. It's about monogamy. Is monogamy fair for men? And how should you navigate the dating market? Check out this video here. Until next time, stay curious.